Hey, Laurel.
Hey, Jessa.
Who's our guest?
We have Nicholas Sandoval from Create Purpose again. Thank you so much
Yay!
for joining us. How do we know Nicholas, Jessa?
Nicholas is a fellow Tory Project alum. He's cohort 2. So we were fortunate to be introduced to him through Tory Project and then learn more about Create Purpose and his organization, what he does. And we're just all on board and loved it. And it's crazy because I guess it's been just over a year, but it feels like a lifetime in a good way as a compliment. So Nicholas, thank you. Oh, and this is your second time, as Laurel hinted at, for our OG fans.
Whoop, whoop.
Welcome back.
And since then, I think you guys have actually visited Tijuana since our last talk, our first one. See, and we learned all of the language apparently.
We went twice.
That's right.
Yeah. And we got to experience, actually, that would be, well, Nicholas, I'll let you introduce it.
I was thinking about our trips too. I was like, wow, you guys actually had the hands-on. We did some really cool things together. We've done some really cool things together. No, thanks for having. It's such a pleasure. I love you ladies. You guys have been, in the heart ever since we met. You guys were on board. Even hosted a fundraiser, the days after we met. It's been just really a pleasure to know you and to love, to experience this work of love with you. Founder, CEO of Create Purpose, just trying to, like many, like you both, and I think like a lot of your listeners, trying to flip the script on how to make this world a better place. What does it mean to make this world a better place? How do we put a little more love into this world? How do we leave it a little bit better than we found it? All those things, I happen to focus, and our organization happens to focus in orphanages just south of the border in Tijuana, Mexico. Focused on giving them programs, learning programs, opportunities to develop a brighter future, if you will. And just really excited to be here. Talking with you ladies.
Yay, great. And I guess, would you, even though you're back again, can you give an overview of Create Purpose, how you, or I guess what led you to start the organization, and a little bit about the work and the programs you guys offer?
Yes. After, almost a decade of visiting orphanages in Baja, California, I saw that the vast majority of funding and resources goes to keeping the lights on, keeping the children fed, the emergency, the urgency that is right in front of them that always exists. And then being there and consistently going down to orphanages, I realized that these children are, first of all, they're starting behind the 8 ball. They're through no fault of their own, the trauma they've experienced, the environment that they've been raised in. These children are just behind behaviorally, academically, physiologically. There's not a lot of hope for these children, and the support is well intentioned. And when we go visit, we visit with cakes and ice creams and piñatas and candy. And when we think about orphan children, we just sort of really have set the bar low. And, as long as there's a roof over their head and there's clothes on their back, they're good, and their belly's fed, they're good. Create Purpose, after, taking a look at the majority of the support that goes down there, realized that no one was really helping in a more advanced, a more developed, a sort of what's beyond the orphanage. These children, they're behind. Yes, they're in these vulnerable situations. Yes, but that doesn't mean that they're hopeless or helpless. And we go there as volunteers and just trying to help with great intentions and with bleeding hearts, and try to love on them. And I guess what we saw was that it's just not enough. The cake, the candy, the good intentions, it's not enough. What they need is consistency. What they need are programs. What they need are a group of local professionals that are committed to their development to be good citizens. It's not pobrecito, poor baby, poor child. It's, wow, look at the opportunity of this child. And if we were to put some really tangible quality resources around this child, what kind of future would this child have? And that, for Create Purpose, as of now, it means we've surrounded these children around a technology program is one of our programs where we take a child from learning, how to turn on a computer to getting them to code. We have a beginning and advanced class to where the advanced students who have already learned the basic principle of coding are applying that to fix problems around the home, like inventory of their pantry. And so it's really cool how to they're learning how to practically use technology. Our other program is our garden-based learning program, which, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because I'm not a gardener. I'm not a permaculturist. I don't know any of these skills, but there is a lot of research, and we've seen personally that there is healing in a garden. When you see a child plant a seed and have the patience and have to collaborate with all the other children in the orphanage to see that seed go from something to be able to harvest it and eaten, it's a challenge. And we've seen, and it's really a beautiful process to see these children really take that garden as their own, to learn from the garden, to share these experiences that they've had in their garden with other volunteers and with other people, with their staff, with other children. Garden-based learning is really I'm really excited about that program, where it's going. And then our third program is our nutrition program, where we teach the caretakers how to better prepare meals, more healthy meals for the children that they're in their care.
Yes, we got to be a part of kind of like the nutrition program. We got to go down to one of the orphanages and experience what it means to use our hands and give back. Now, that's different than like orphanage tourism, where you go down there and you hold the kids and you take pictures with them and you flee out of there. And so they're kind of left with this, feeling of loss again and again. We went down there and we helped organize the pantry, get rid of expired items, like clean everything. It was so satisfying. Oh my gosh. Putting on gloves.
All the rat droppings that were everywhere. It's crazy. What's beautiful, Laurel and Jess, I want to tell you that that pantry is still immaculate. That pantry is still incredibly clean.
Yay, because it was almost really cool. A year ago, because we went in December, right?
I'll share photos next time I'm there, and we can share with you the audience.
Yeah, and I think with this program that you're doing is part of, the title of this episode is Giving Back Sustainably. And that's exactly it. It's like you guys are so thoughtful in how you can get people involved and how you can raise the funds you need to keep these programs going. And like you said, like we all want to help. And you and Create Purpose's president, Edith, really opened our eyes to how this is a problem, that you go down, you spend a day with the kids, and then that cycle of abandonment starts all over again. And it just brings about, like, we have to be so conscious with our actions in so many ways. And so going down to do this program was a way for us to give back sustainably. Like you said, it's still clean a year later. And when we organized the pantry, Edith, who runs the nutrition program, right? Yeah. I know she's a nutrition person. Yeah. She was giving us guidance. I'm like, Edith, I got this. I know how to organize a pantry. And she said, well, put the nutritious food, because there's so many donations coming in. And so it's kind of a mishmash of all sorts of things. She's like, put the nutritious food within arm's reach. So the woman who's preparing the meals, and I think it's like 3 meals a day, 6 days a week for how many kids?
30 there.
30? Yeah. It's just so many. And so she's just like trying to get everything done as fast as she can. And so she's going to grab what's easiest and what's right in front of her and use that to create her menu. And so when the healthy stuff is right within arm's reach, eye level, it makes it so much easier for that to be incorporated in the food and the meal served. And when you say it, it's like, well, duh, of course, but it's not that obvious until you get why when someone points it out. And it's just these things that are so, I don't want to say simple, but they're very easy to implement and to make change. It's just like having the direction and guidance and someone like Create Purpose to come in and be like, these are ways you can help.
And that's so interesting, Jessa, because there's always these little changes that you can make just to make an experience more efficient in anywhere. I think what's special at an orphanage is what might work in your home and my home and 99.99 of homes around the world probably doesn't work in an orphanage. And so I think it's finding those little things, those little tips here and there when you've been working in orphanage and specifying in orphanages for so long, like you're able to just make your job or their job more effective. I think that's our job, is just to make the job as simple as possible, to get these children as ready as possible. But it's certain things like that. I mean, even when we were doing our technology program, we've since, talking about sustainable support, we've since started a for-purpose, a social business within Create Purpose, our Coding with Purpose program. And our Coding with Purpose program, where we're offering coding classes to just the general public, any child living from 7 to 14, living in the United States or a Spanish-speaking country, the learning process for them and the children that we're so accustomed to serving in an orphanage, oh my God, are night and day. We actually even in March started working with the migrant centers here in Tijuana. Migration is a complete, it's chaos here in TJ, as you can imagine, here on the border between San Diego or United States and Mexico. And even the children that we were coming to across in the migrant center where we served this year was 30 children. They were so much more advanced than the children that we serve. Having that, just one parent, even in the chaos of migration, even all that trauma, the children that we serve are consistently just behind. So when we're focused in this area and we can find little nuances, little things like that, like, hey, keep it in arm's reach. The nutritious food with arm's reach, which probably works for every home in America. There's some things that I think are really special that we're coming across. That's why, just working here is just exciting, because you come across, uncover these things every day.
That's really interesting about the migrant, your observation between the migrant students and the students through the orphanage. And I feel like it's surprising because, like you said, just being in, I don't know. I've just seen on the news. I haven't had like direct interaction, but the immigrants and the journey just seems so intense and arduous and uncertain. And so, like you said, just the importance, the impact it has on these kids, just to have at least one parent, and the advancement and development is very enlightening.
I think what's interesting is that the vast majority of children in the orphanages that we serve in Baja and Tijuana, they do have a parent, at least one parent alive. Over 85% of these children have at least one parent. They're just in jail or on drugs, or they've had to been removed from parental care, the children that we serve, in order to be able to put into an orphanage, a casa hogar, here in Tijuana. So imagine, that's just, I couldn't imagine, I would say I couldn't imagine the trauma these children that are in orphanages have undergone. At the same time, I've heard the stories of the trauma that they've undergone. And it would, you couldn't imagine it. So I understand, yes, migrant children, I know the news focuses on it when it's in the news cycle, and absolutely, it's an incredible travesty. I think they've got a step ahead on our children. I think that to have a parent there, is a huge advantage, and we're going to do what we can to serve that population too. Yeah.
Yeah, and with Create Purpose, and kind of going back to when we were able to visit and do our hands-on experience, obviously pre-COVID. I should say obviously, it was pre-COVID, and you guys were starting to do like kind of a test pilot or like a pilot program, and we were testing the model about having people come down and doing more interacting and getting the experience of your work without doing the kind of, dog and pony show, if you will, that people might more traditionally think of. So is that something you're still doing, you're pursuing? Like, was that even like for us as like a test program? Like, is that
super
something you guys are more
successful.
interested in doing?
It was super successful. Pilot. It was right, I think, going into COVID, maybe a couple of months before. That was a result of just understanding, going back to sustainable support, understanding the need of generating our own revenue. Since the beginning of Create Purpose, yes, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, tax deductible in the United States. As of last week, congratulations team, we became a nonprofit in Mexico, tax deductible as well. So that after years and years of trying, we finally became now we're a binational tax deductible nonprofit. But that really, the trips, we need to make our own money. It was a really cool thing to be able to bring people, to accept people down. Like you said, not to do the whole dog and pony, not to do the orphan tourism thing, but really to give back in a meaningful way. Obviously, when COVID hit, we had to really take a hard turn. That's what I'm really excited and proud of our team, because we were very flexible, and instead we pulled the sort of the reins back on our, what were they called, our Create Purpose experiences. And we started Coding with Purpose, the program that I just mentioned, where now our virtual classes that we've been teaching, that we've been perfecting for the last 3.5 years with the children that we serve, now we're able to go into, a child anywhere in the world via Zoom and via, our technology platform and our partner of Logischool that we use. And be able to teach any child around the world, or, in our languages, how to code. And so I think it's, yes, it was successful. Yes, we really liked and appreciated showing you guys and showing people what we are, who we are, what we do, what we're about. You guys got to meet a few people, members of the team. And we have still sort of sporadically brought people down, because we have to show donors and we have to show friends what we do. But it's more, it's very safe in these, it's very limited, I'll say, these days. But our focus, talking about sustainable support, is building a social business, whether that's trips, whether that's Coding with Purpose, which it's really starting to take form and take shape. The old ways of nonprofit, of 501c3 living, are just dead. If you're expecting, it's funny. When I first started Create Purpose, I was at a convention, and one of the ladies was talking about diversifying her funding, and for this nonprofit, and was talking about the diversification of funding and getting local, state, and federal grants. And I've seen that across multiple nonprofits. When they think about funding, they think in terms of grants. I think it's very important when you start anything. I mean, especially a 501c3, you have to generate your own funds. And at Create Purpose, at least, we're going to scratch and claw until we learn how to make a dollar that's aligned with our values and our programs.
Cool.
Did that answer your question? I think that answered it.
Sorry. No, yeah, I think you did. It sounds like you're still on a very limited basis able to take select people down to visit?
I think what we're really looking forward to once COVID lifts, once travel restrictions lift. We've gotten really good at hosting VIPs to Valle de Guadalupe. So it's and if you don't know Valle de Guadalupe, it's a beautiful wine country in Baja, California. It's an hour and a half south of the border. And so it's an opportunity to say, we'll stop by the orphanage. We will. And they see our garden. They talk to the director. They'll do a home tour. But we sort of set the expectation. You probably won't see a child. You're definitely not going to talk to a child. You're here there to see our work. You're there to sort of proof of what we're doing. And let's have fun. You know, it's not, we're still figuring out how we can better incorporate, looking to getting an inside look at our programs, which saying that is why we're really excited for November 19th. Because
why are you excited for November 19th? What is November 19th? November 19th sounds like an important date.
We are.
Write down November 19th.
November 19th. It's our 6th anniversary virtual event. And it's virtual. So anytime we've had an event before, it's been really hard it's about the event and it's fundraising, but like the program becomes about fundraising, and it becomes about, hey, how are we going to, get money at this event? And it was very hard, especially us being in Mexico and working with orphanages, to bring our programs, especially the recipients of our programs, to Pasadena, to San Diego, to Southern California, to like, hey guys, let me show you the children that we work with, the orphanages that we work with. What's really cool about November 19th and this our 6th anniversary virtual event is, for the first time, we're able to show you our programs. Instead of all the work leading up to coordinating the logistics of an in-person event, all the work has gone into showing you and best giving our audience a good representation of our technology program, of our garden-based learning program, of our nutrition program, and of our psychology program, which is in development and will continue to always be developed. But that's why we're really excited, because you'll get to see it. And like, never have anyone ever seen our program. No, I mean, you have to come down normally to Tijuana to meet our team. And so this is really special. We're really looking forward to sharing with everyone, who Create Purpose is and what we do, and specifically how we impact and how we're different.
Yes. I'll add from experience, you're different, because I grew up in a community where volunteerism was a crucial part of your childhood growth and, becoming a productive civil servant and member of society. And the volunteerism that I usually did was fundraising events, where families like me that looked like me from the same background as me would just get in a room with just each other and just spend a bunch of money on things and stuff. And what's different about Create Purpose is getting my hands involved in actual meaningful, long-lasting work and programs where, I'm not made uncomfortable by connecting with an orphan child that I'm just never going to see again, because that breaks my heart as much, almost as much as it breaks theirs. And then that experience, that personal experience, the feeling that I got, I'm really excited to see how that's going to translate into your virtual event, because of exactly what you said. There's so many people involved and so many stories and so many programs are going to come through at this virtual event. So we get to see Create Purpose from all these different angles and be more involved. And I'm so grateful, because I feel like that's the evolution of nonprofits. As you said, the old way of nonprofits isn't going to work anymore. So we're elevating our level of consciousness through hands-on work. And when we can't do it hands-on because of COVID, we're going to do incredible storytelling so that you feel like you're there. So Jessa popped up on the screen, purchase tickets. Get your tickets so that you can be a part of this personal experience that's going to stick.
CreatePurpose.org is where you can go, first of all, support Create Purpose in general, and purchase tickets for the event. A plug for those audio listeners. Nicholas, look at that courtesy.
You said that we do need to get better at storytelling. You hit the nail on the head, and this is sort of our first stab at it. But that's the part. It's the storytelling versus the program, because there's the balance of that. And it's been interesting. I told you guys last time when Create Purpose just started, 6 years ago now, the focus was on Instagram and Facebook and marketing and storytelling. And 9 months after we started, we were still focused on those same things, and we had no program. And so we took a hard stop on all the marketing and all the storytelling. And over the last, I'd say 5 years, just did a hard focus on programs, hyper-focused on programs and program development. Now getting into M&E and measuring and evaluation and just indicators and these super cool organizational, like we're going to be around for a whole heck of a long time metrics. And it's been so interesting now coming back to storytelling and just figuring it out again and figuring it out. Okay, but they've tied our hands to a lot of things, and they handcuffed us on storytelling because these children are wards of the state, can't show their face, can't tell their story, can't. And so we're having to be creative, and that's the easy part, I guess, to get creative with backs of heads and hands and and voiceovers, but to be able to tell that story. And I mean, that's what's interesting is now it's for any nonprofit, for any social business, for any organization. It's like where it's that equilibrium between storytelling and product and service has to just be, the exact same as what we've learned.
Well, I want to applaud you because you're talking about from the beginnings and growth, and you went away from traditional marketing and you focused on heavy program development, which is where the meaningful, long-lasting change can really happen. The real hearty soup of the organization. And as part of your growth, you've added on these experts and these teammates. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, the last story that I remember that stuck with me was this nutritional program, because the wellness of an individual has significant impact on their health and well-being in the future and their quality of life. And so you've, as a leader in the organization, taken it on to find the expert to drill down into the details. Tell us about the experts in your nutritional program, as well as your psychological programs.
It's so interesting because how can you talk about learning programs when you're not the focus is a child with an empty stomach? Like we're talking about development programs for a child who's hungry. Like you can't even get into that. Even when you think about Maslow's pyramids of needs, and I mean, you've got to make sure that they're well fed. And it's interesting being in orphanages because you have two different spectrums. You have the orphanages that are consistently visited by Americans. Their pantries are completely full of candy and chocolates and also beans and, I mean, canned salmon, and you guys saw it. And all these random, Costco, United States things. And then you have the other side where, I mean, it's, dinner time on a Wednesday and they're having, cereal or oatmeal because that's what there is. And that's what they had, maybe that's their only meal of the day. So there's really two different spectrums. I think what's interesting about our nutrition program and why our nutrition program is now scaling and has seen a lot of effectiveness is because we have to talk to both of them. I mean, an orphanage, it's the spread is so the range of economics is so varied that we need to talk on the health of the child who, okay, if all you have is beans and rice or an oatmeal, They're so used to putting, a bowl of beans and then putting a bunch of lard and butter, lard in it. Just that's culturally, that's how you make beans. And so there's just very simple things that we can talk about. Okay, you don't have all the resources, but let's take a look at the resources that you do have, and let's find better options. And then it's going with also at the same time with the other side of the spectrum. You're getting a lot of visits. You have a full pantry. It's not hard for you to get food. Maybe be specific and ask for fruits and vegetables, because directors of orphanages are almost nervous to tell donors what to give them in fear that if I tell you we want this instead of this, you won't give us anything. And I'm not training or teaching, we're just, sharing, I guess, that we want to help, or people who are coming and visiting, they do have the best of intentions. They do have the greatest of hearts. And if you tell them, hey, can you give me apples instead of fruit roll-ups? Like, they're going to give you apples instead of fruit roll-ups happily. And so it's just changing some culture within orphanages, some changing just little tiny steps. And our experts are so great. You talked about Edith being the president, and also runs our nutrition program, figuring out and really shifting during the pandemic how to take our program virtual. Before the big sell was, they used to go to the culinary arts school. It was very, very attractive, and you have orphanage chefs learning from chefs, orphanage staff learning from chefs at the culinary arts school how to prepare these incredible meals. And so it was a 3-day, really, great course. Well, we can't do that anymore. So it's been really great. Edith, and she runs a really great team at Create Purpose in the nutrition program, and a lot of really great nutritionists. And yeah, how do we take this virtual? How do we take this virtual so that it works for everybody, but then also design home visits where, okay, here's the big themes. Now let's individualize it for all the orphanages that we serve. So it's, a little bit of virtual plus in-home, which our team, and all our team, our programs coordinator that works with our tech department, our tech program, they had to do the same thing. Our nutrition program, we had to learn how to go virtual. Our psychology program had to go virtual. I think, Laurel, you talked about the expertise more than anything of our coordinators, of the directors of our programs. I think what I can really press home is, yes, the expertise. Ours are all incredible. What's as important as them being experts is them being local. So many times we try and change the world from the comfort of our own home, and we're trying to change the world on the other side of the planet, or on the other side of the border, on another city, or another. And those are great. I've seen so many people want to use their expertise to change populations. I want to go in and volunteer. I want to be used. Use me. Great. But also never forget in the back of your head that there's always something's going to come up. Your tire's going to go flat. You're going to get married. You're gonna have a cousin celebration on the same day you're supposed. Stuff happens. Life happens. It's always better to make sure, at least for us, and I would imagine every nonprofit would encourage you to the same thing. If you're thinking about volunteering your skills, if you can't sign off that you're going to consistently be there, think about how you can provide resources that someone who a local professional, a local expert, can give those resources in a more, I guess, sustainable way.
That's a really interesting kind of paradigm shift for me. Is like, okay, there's sort of a complexity for me getting to Baja, even though it's just a stone's throw away, and I love going to Mexico. I mean, I have to cross the world's busiest border crossing and drive or get a ride. And so even if I have the best of intentions, like you said, life happens, so I might not be able to be present and show up, but there are local people that can show up. So your recommendation is to ask, how can I support those local people who can consistently show up for their community. And then the second big takeaway I heard earlier was a nod to our previous podcast about we as Americans often think I might know what they need, but I don't know. Like, I might think I'm doing good by giving canned beans. Maybe that's not what they need. So one like practical tip for our listeners is to literally ask what they need, because I am a willing giver, and I'll give you apples if that's what you want. Thank you for clarifying that, because those are big paradigm shifts, I think.
Well, it's interesting because we're so used to, and not incorrectly either, we're so used to wanting to see the impact of our dollar. I want to see where it goes. I need to see where, but we want to see that now because we've been so beat up by nonprofits stealing our money and not knowing where it goes. We've been so beat up on this dollar that I've given you. I have no idea where it goes. And I come to find like just nonprofits have a bad taste. They leave a bad taste in your mouth. And so it's interesting, and I get it. At the same time, we're trying to fix like core issues, social issues, and especially when we're talking about learning programs, and just specifically for Create Purpose learning programs, man, to see impact, that's going to take years. That's going to take years, and so I think when we're talking about sustainable support, there's a few things that you really want to be very mindful of. Whether, okay, we found out, okay, I want to give my time, I want to give my services. Okay, I can't. I rather give resources so that some local can. You want to donate. You've already found out you want to donate. How can you donate to make sure that it's sustainable? How can you make sure that it's going to the right place? And we've already talked about locals. I think the local part is a huge piece. Asking, I think it's so important. The teach to fish element. I mean, I think it's so important to stop giving people things and stuff. And my favorite, I guess, story is that you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. I mean, and if we just did that, if we just only had that at the forefront of our mind every time we were to give, I think we would really move the needle on how we're affecting the world. Because right now we're not. Right now, I mean, we've been giving so much money to cancer research, and we're not moving the needle. We've been giving so much money to homelessness, we're not moving the needle. So much money to poverty, and we're not moving the needle. Is because we're just giving fish. We're giving fish, and we keep on giving fish and expecting us to get them to learn how to fish when they don't need to. And I think not only the giving the fish part, but what's really cool in 2020, the new sort of evolution of Create Purpose, knowing that we've always needed to get here, is the measuring of that fish. Okay, now I've taught you to fish. How good are you fishing? Is there better ways to teach you how to fish better? Can I get you to fish more effectively? Now, how do I get you to fish when via a Zoom call? And so it's just really, we're really excited on the evolution, especially when you talk about sustainability. There's so many facets of it, but yeah.
You can keep going. I mean, we're here for it. But I think too, I mean, everything you're saying, I'm just sitting here thinking like that's sustainable, that has purpose. And it's so spot on. Like even just talking about the people, donating their time. And I think we just naturally, like you said, we want to have an impact. We want to see the impact of our actions. And it's the instant gratification, really. I mean, which is like such part of our culture now, but it's not sustainable. Like what is for me, like a hobby, or I have some extra time. This is kind of a passion project or interest. When there's people on the other side relying on you for the operations, that's when, again, it's the helping, not helping mindset. Like you have these good, pure intentions, but you're not applying like the conscious and like awareness and the purpose behind it. well, I shouldn't say that. You're probably putting purpose behind it, but I think the awareness
No,
aspect is what.
absolutely. I think you just actually gave me, I'm going to have to play with some messaging, but we're trying to change the world through our hobbies. Like that's not going to, that doesn't fly, you know? And so thing. And what was interesting is kind of circling back to the Laurel and the ask. I say that, and I think it's super important to, yes, ask the populations that, and then in the back of my mind, I think of orphanages, and I think of all these vulnerable populations who are living day to day, who always have this urgent need right in front of them. I think the real cool thing about working with locals and asking, sometimes when we go into these orphanages, they don't know what they need. Not even that they don't know what they need. They do know what they need, and it's the emergency that's right in front of them. So it's working with them to define their needs, and not to say like, I think my growth as a leader in the organization I started the organization with no fish, like we're giving fish and we need to stop giving fish, no stuff. I even gave the TED talk, and like anti stuff was like my moniker, no? And I'm realizing how so important that stuff is. That stuff keeps the lights on. That stuff is and not even important for the child, because yes, it's definitely important for the child. But the giving of the stuff that's how I got here, to understand how much more is needed. We all go through our own process, and giving that stuff was my process to get here. So I think I'm learning, like, okay, that stuff is so important. So important. I gave 10 years of stuff, and that thankful for those 10 years of stuff. Now I'm able to give the rest of my life in just an evolved state of stuff, right? But God, like, I'm just grateful that I guess, so yes, the stuff is important. Sometimes they don't know what that stuff is that they really need. And I think with the local experts is like, hey, yes, you need this, but let's think about just stuff that highly, just more advanced stuff, I guess.
This all reminds me kind of what Laurel and I do at a Stellar Co. is that we don't go in and tell people what they need. Mm-hmm. We guide them, mm-hmm. is what we say. I mean, they usually know what the goals, they know, again, they're doing what's right in front of them, mm-hmm. the email with the red exclamation mm-hmm. and all bold in caps and mm-hmm. whatever's right there, but it's not the long-term mm-hmm. things that are really going to drive change are what gets pushed aside. And so I think mm-hmm. it's a little parallel with what you're talking about when you go in and you work with the directors and the staff and talk to them about their needs and are able to kind of help, mm-hmm. Keep the eye on the long term and to not veer off course. Mm-hmm. Of course, when you're dealing with children and orphans in these situations, there are going to be emergencies and things are going to come up. And so I think having, these programs like Create Purpose you're just making such an impactful change mm-hmm. and bringing them resources that they probably don't have time to even like seek out outside of just the day-to-day operations. Mm-hmm.
And I think what's been key over this last year, we just came out of the USAID Institutional Strengthening Program, and really we built chaos into our program. So that's what's really cool, is knowing that stuff's going to come up, all this stuff's going to come up, whatever happens in an orphanage. And how do you and this is for any nonprofit, this is like sort of, or organization, it's sort of like building loss into, your brick and mortar store, is how do we systematize, Jose going to the hospital, and how do we so I think it's a process. It's a process.
Well, as you were talking about this and like asking what they need and for both sides to ask, do you ever create a wish list? I'm thinking like Amazon, like these are things we need, you can buy it. Does that work for your purposes?
We haven't created a wish list because it's really, what we need is computers and money. And so it's not, our program is we've kept it very efficient. Like we need routers, Wi-Fi, and teachers. All the rest, like all our didactical, like teaching information, I mean, we create. You know, we've made our program super cost effective. So we're really excited about that. But it does require, you know, professionals to implement. So
put those links up for the Dells.
put the link.
If you want to help, this is exactly what we need. Is this computer?
No, actually, that's the note. That's the note. Amazon.
Well, and I was thinking there's a nonprofit here that I work with, and it's different, but it's with animals, and same thing. I think they get a lot of stuff people are donating to help, and they're like, "Thank you," because they just see in the comments like, "But we really need these things." So I was thinking about them because Laurel and I actually contributed. We do a beneficiary each quarter. We do 3 beneficiaries. And quarterly, we rolled it into our business model for our top line revenue to donate 1% to people, 1% to profit, 1% to planet. Laurel has a better pitch about it than I do, but oh, good, okay. And so one of these was for this, this animal organization, and it's a dog rescue, the Animal Pad. We love them. I foster dogs with them, and they come down. They get their dogs from Ensenada, and anyway, you know them. I love them, and so we went, and they just had this Amazon list. Like, these are the things we need, and it was like, great. And so we bought it instead of me going and being like, here's a bunch of I don't know, dog food that dogs don't like, but I was thinking about that approach. It was really great to just have them outline. And then I think as a personal aspect, I'm like, oh, I gave, like 60 cans of puppy food and 20 pounds of dog food. And so it was like that connection of like, oh, I helped, and this is how I helped.
Well, that's the job of a storyteller, right? And that's the job. I think that's that same thing that I know we're not great at right now, but it's our job. It's our communication team's job. And right now, when I say communication teams, you're looking at them. But no, that's not true. That's not true, because after the event, we have a lot of people coming on that are going to help with communication. So we're really grateful. November 19th, remember that event. November 19th.
November 19th.
Yeah. But no, that's the job. That's the job of our communications team, is to really define, to make it, what you're giving to, this dollar goes to X amount of hours for this child who will learn this. And because you did this, I'm going to send you, emails for the next 6 months about the journey that child's gone through in his orphanage or in our coding program. So it's very relational. That's storytelling. And so right now, I'm finally comfortable with being able to tell a story, and just being able to tell a story. Before, we didn't know who we were. Before, our programs, we didn't know the impact specifically that our programs were having on this child. Now we do. We didn't know. Okay, that garden. What's the plan with that garden? We have the plan. We know the plan. It's just when you've hyper focused on program, you're able to more confidently tell your story.
And can you let us know? So you were on Orion about a year ago, and we have seen you guys grow so much in the last year. And I just follow you on social media. That's all I do. And, occasionally get to talk to you once in a while. But I was just wondering, like, can you explain and like put in just like some words? And like, I know you guys have won grants and have taken on new orphanages for your programs. Can you explain like the growth you've had in just the last year?
We went from serving 70, or in 2019, we went from serving 75 children to, in 2020, we'll serve over 1,000. 20 in 2021. We just got funding to serve over 2,000. Our goal is to serve over 2,500 children in 2021. It's processes, procedures, systematization. I didn't even know the word systematization when I was on the last Orion podcast. I mean, it's the difference between being a startup and being an organization. It's these processes and procedures that no matter what happens in any program or product or service, you have a procedure and a process to resolve it, to find the outcome, to get towards its end. Tell me.
Nicholas, I think for our listeners, a key strategy there is in your name. Purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like you started with a purpose and a vision and a culture and exactly what you weren't going to do. And you were very clear around that core culture of create purpose. And then you tested things and then you systematized. Some people launch a business or a nonprofit that have systematized before they've gotten super clear on the vision and the culture. And I want to applaud you for starting off on the right foot, nurturing that culture, staying focused yet flexible. That growth, well, not traditional like business growth, but that reach, that impact that you're having from 75 to almost reaching your goal of 2,500 kids, that's blowing my mind. How quickly you did that. And with such a great team, I just want to sit with that. That is amazing. Congratulations.
No, thank you. It's, I mean, it is the team, you know, it is the team. It's been incredible. But culture trumps everything, right? Hey, Tori, shout out.
Dr. Gustavo.
And so it's funny because we know that. So how are we cultivating culture within our organizations? What does that mean? How are we? I think that's an onboarding. I think completely culture starts with the onboarding of your customer and your team. Sadly, the onboarding of our customer, we don't have yet. That's storytelling. We're getting there. Our donations, as we get, you know, a communications person, a marketer, that will get better. But what we are great at is the onboarding of our team, because that's culture. That onboarding of our team when they get here, whether you're a volunteer or whether or a staff, you're going to go through an onboarding process where you'll learn our values, and everything that we do is based on our values. You're going to learn the vision, you're going to learn the mission, you're going to learn every single program, who we are, what we say, to the hex code of our font. You know, and so I think it's very important that we know it. We know it's all about culture. And so it's just been sticking to the vision. And yes, stuff comes up and chaos arises, and you have to be flexible and change program or product or service consistently, always stay nimble. But that vision and those values and that mission has to be crystal clear. And when we got crystal clear on that vision, like from Jump Street, and it helped us. But you know, we've been in some really great programs to help us define that mission and define those values to even more. And once now that they're crystal clear, it's been really easy to build this culture and to really grow around it.
I'll give a quick plug for one of our friends, Nathan Young at the New Narrative. He focuses on storytelling for nonprofits. And so he has a lot of programs, and he's been in the Orion guest, and we worked with him. So just a little shout out as we're talking about storytelling for nonprofits. And as we're talking about culture and starting on onboarding, that is so true. I was reading a statistic that I don't remember, but it was impactful, whatever it was significant, saying about how that's where you start retention, basically, because I always thought that, it's the recruiting process or the interview process, like that's where you can make mistakes. And then after that, I learned, no, where it's so critical is the onboarding process. And that's for any business, any organization. It's so once you hire them, you have to be, like you said, like have these systems and really integrate them into the culture and, you know, the core values, like this is how we do things here. We don't do that here. And all the things that, you know, we've all talked about in Tory Project. And we just have a few minutes left, but I wanted to ask, you know, like it sounds like you said systemization has allowed you to have this exponential growth. And what, like, how did you learn about this, the systemization? Like, what spurred it?
We just came out of an institutional, or what was it called? Institutional strengthening from USAID. And that was really, I mean, it's really a lot of places right from, day one on this nonprofit CEO journey. It's been a learning experience. And so you understand very quickly that you need processes. And you have no idea how to build them, what that even means. And then you learn it a little bit here, and then you learn a little bit here, and then you learn a little bit here. But I think what really took us over the edge was the institutional strengthening program at USAID. The Tory project was actually really great to start. That was the first time when I had felt really worthy of being a CEO and worthy of sitting, hey, we did start this. I did start this. Yeah, I wasn't ready. I didn't have any of the tools, and, underprepared and overworked. But hey, so are all you guys. No one knows what we're doing. We're all just figuring it out. And then you get better, and then you get better. So I think it was a little bit of that. Wait, I don't even know if I answered your question.
Well, it sounds like the institutional, the USAID was really the catalyst for that's like where you learned about the more like the application, maybe options of like the systems and the importance.
Yeah. But I think, what was really big, the two things I will to tell about the Tory project were, the onboarding was important for us, but CPR has stuck with me for the longest. Communications, priorities, and roles and responsibilities. And that being the main pain point of Fortune 100 companies. They were, for someone measured Fortune 100 companies, they're like, hey, what's your biggest pain point? Majority of them, all of them said three things in some way, shape, or form: communications, priorities, and roles and responsibilities. And so what we've done really well to be able to work on this culture, to be able to work on, being able to expand quickly, was as they onboard, we make sure that you know how to communicate with us. We have gotten so great at communication using, really we use Trello and Slack. And it's been incredible, because now we know exactly what's going on throughout all the departments. We know, and everyone, right when they come in, they have this expectation that, hey, we communicate really well in this organization, so get ready. And so that's really been a shout out to the Tory for really changing the way that we communicate as an organization, and has set the stage for us to grow. Like, if we had 1 million children in our program, and we were raising $100 million a year, what had to change? Like, you have to think of your system as though that's your impact. And there were a lot of things that we had to change, and we took a look at a lot of systems. We're still changing a lot of them. But yeah, it was really that communication process.
Thank you. Was CPR in the Tory project?
What's his name?
I must have not been listening very well that day. I was like, I've never heard that before. Mm-hmm. And then you're saying, oh, the Tory project. I was like, oh.
It was one Saturday.
That was
Yeah, it was a Saturday.
Those were long days.
Well,
thank you for reminding me of it. And thanks for discussing that. I think that's really helpful and applicable to anybody in I would say it's a key takeaway, but we're right at time. So we could do our 3-point landing and 3 key takeaways, and you can put in whatever you want. There's a lot of nuggets in here.
I'm ready this time. Last time I wasn't ready for the 3 takeaways. This time I'm a little more prepared. The first one is obviously, I think, just kind of aligned with what we were talking about. Think about where and how you give. Just be super conscious about where you're giving, how you're giving. Are you giving a sandwich, or are you teaching someone how to make bread? It's the difference is stark. Please just evolve your thinking on how and where you give. The second one is just to give, to start in any fashion, any way, shape, or form. If it's not a part of your nature, change that. It changes you. It's incredible to give. It fires off all these endorphins and chemically in your brain. It's just proven scientifically that it's better to give than to receive. So just give and do yourself a favor. And the third, I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you, November 19th. We're really excited because, like I said, it's our first opportunity to share our impact with you so that you can see our programs. The whole team, we have 53 people working at Create Purpose now, and everyone took just even a small percentage of their time to make sure that we did our best and we were successful at putting our best foot forward on showing our programs to you on. This is our expose. So get your tickets on November 19th. I think the links are somewhere in here, and I'll make sure that they're wherever this is posted, that the links are there as well. Yeah, we really want to make it a successful event. The goal is $20,000 to really be able to grow to 2 more orphanages, to have our impact of 4 orphanages in specifically our technology program, to expand our technology program to 4 orphanages, over 100 children with just that program. We're really excited, and thank you so much, Laurel and Jessa. Thank you so much, Stellar Co, for having me. It's been always a pleasure to talk to you and see your beautiful faces.
Thank you so much. CreatePurpose.org for our listeners. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll have you again, I'm sure. All right. Send it, Jessa.